Hey guys, tonight we're going to embark on a rather peculiar journey, one where the very air around you feels thick with tranquility, and the world itself seems to hum a lullaby. Imagine, if you will, a vast, swirling mist that eventually parts, revealing a shoreline so impossibly still, the waves barely whisper against the sand. You're standing on the precipice of an island, not marked on any modern map, a place whispered about in ancient texts, a mythical land known simply as the Isle of Somnus, or perhaps, for those who really know their Greek pantheon, the rumored abode of Hypnos, the very god of sleep. You gaze across the gentle, lapping water, and already a peculiar heaviness settles behind your eyes, a warmth that promises profound rest. You probably won't survive staying awake here for long, but that's precisely the point, isn't it? So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And as you settle in, tell me where you're listening from tonight and what time it is for you. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. As your vessel, if we can even call it that, a tiny, unassuming boat, glides through the unseasonably calm waters, you begin to notice the pervasive fog. It's not a thick, oppressive blanket, but rather a soft, iridescent shroud, lending an ethereal quality to everything. The air, even before you step ashore, feels different. It's not cold nor hot, but perfectly temperate, lacking the sharp bite of a sea breeze or the stifling humidity of a tropical clime. It's as if the very elements have been lulled into a perpetual state of agreeable mildness. Your eyelids, perhaps just a moment ago, were struggling to stay open, now feel pleasantly heavy. You find yourself yawning, not out of boredom, but out of an unfamiliar, deep-seated sense of peace. As the boat nudges against a silken, seaweed-strewn shore, you step out onto sand that feels like powdered silk beneath your bare feet. The silence is profound. Not the unnerving silence of an empty, desolate place, but a rich, layered, quiet, broken only by the distant, rhythmic sigh of the ocean and what sounds suspiciously like soft, synchronized snoring. You chuckle to yourself, a gentle, almost silent sound that feels too loud in this hushed world. This island, you realize, isn't just quiet, it's sleeping. Every rustle of leaves, every distant bird call, seems muted, as if the very sound waves are too tired to carry their full weight. You look around. There are no bustling docks, no shouting merchants, no frantic activity, just a narrow path, barely visible through the swirling mists, leading inland. The trees that line this path are unlike any you've seen. Their branches droop languidly, their leaves broad and soft, like velvet blankets. They seem to sigh rather than rustle in the imperceptible breeze. Even the light, filtered through the perpetual haze, is diffused and gentle, painting the world in shades of pearl and lavender. It's the kind of light that encourages a long nap rather than a brisk morning walk. As you begin to walk, your steps are unusually light, almost floaty. You find yourself swaying slightly, a natural rhythm asserting itself, a gentle rocking motion that feels oddly comforting. The air carries a faint, sweet scent, not cloying or overpowering, but subtle and elusive, like distant honeysuckle or a forgotten dream. You try to identify it, but your mind feels delightfully sluggish, content to simply absorb the sensation rather than analyze it. This is a place, you intuit, where the pursuit of knowledge gives way to the blissful surrender of understanding. Historians still argue whether the concept of this type of sleep magic was a philosophical ideal or a genuine belief in ancient cultures. Was it a yearning for escape or a perceived spiritual pathway? Here, the answer doesn't seem to matter as much as the feeling itself. You notice something else, something subtly unsettling, yet utterly soothing. There are no sharp edges here. Every rock is smoothed, every branch rounded, every incline a gentle slope. It's as if the island itself has been softened by eons of dreams, worn smooth by the passage of countless somnolent hours. Even the small stones beneath your feet feel yielding like cushions. You find yourself wondering if, perhaps, the very geology of this place has been influenced by the prevailing atmosphere of rest. Or perhaps it's merely your perception, dulled by the pervasive tranquility that renders everything soft and indistinct. You try to focus, to really see the details, but your mind, much like a well-loved blanket, wants to fold inward, to become cozy and warm. The path meanders, not in a confusing or disorienting way, but in a languid, unhurried fashion, inviting you to simply follow wherever it leads, without urgency or destination. You pass a cluster of what look like oversized, luminous mushrooms, glowing with a soft, internal light. They pulse gently, as if breathing in a deep, slow rhythm, adding to the pervasive feeling of quiet, almost imperceptible life. You lean closer, and a faint, sweet aroma, different from the ambient scent, wafts from them, reminiscent of warm milk and honey. Your stomach, which you hadn't even realized was grumbling, now feels comfortably full, as if simply inhaling the air here provides a gentle sustenance. It's a bit like a magical sleep buffet, all aroma and no calories. The mist, while ever present, occasionally thins, offering glimpses of what lies beyond. You see what might be distant hills, rounded and verdant, shrouded in the same sleepy haze. There's no harsh sunlight, no piercing shadows, just a pervasive, diffused glow that seems to emanate from the very atmosphere itself. The sky, when you can glimpse it, is a uniform, pale gray, like a perpetually overcast, yet comforting, morning. You realize you haven't seen the sun or stars since you arrived, and the thought doesn't bother you in the slightest. Time, you suspect, operates differently here, less as a linear progression and more as a soft, endless present. You find yourself smiling, a soft, unforced smile. There's a peculiar sense of homecoming, of having finally found a place where the constant hum of the world, the insistent demands of daily life, simply cease to exist. This isn't just a place to visit. It's a state of being, a gentle invitation to simply be, without striving, without effort, without the relentless push and pull of wakefulness. You feel your shoulders relax, your jaw unclench, and a sigh, a true, unburdened sigh, escapes your lips. This island isn't just about sleep. It's about the profound, unadulterated peace that precedes it, the kind of peace that settles deep in your bones and whispers, "It's okay to let go." As you continue your gentle stroll further inland, the geographical peculiarities of this island begin to truly impress themselves upon your senses. It's not just that everything is soft and muted. It's that the very landscape seems to defy the usual laws of geology. There are no sharp, jagged peaks tearing at the sky, no craggy cliffs plunging dramatically into the sea. Instead, every rise is a soft, rounded hill, covered in a velvety moss that yields underfoot, making every step feel like walking on a cloud. It's almost as if the island itself is made of plush, overstuffed cushions, a giant, benevolent beanbag chair of a landmass. You might even find yourself stifling a giggle, imagining an ancient god of geology, perhaps a notoriously lazy one, simply smoothing out every sharp corner with a giant, sleepy hand. The streams, when you encounter them, don't babble or rush. They meander slowly, their waters so clear and still that the pebbles on their beds seem to shimmer in a perpetual state of undisturbed contemplation. They flow with such a lack of urgency, you half expect to see tiny miniature boats filled with even tinier, equally drowsy passengers drifting by without a care in the world. The air above these streams is often laden with a fine, almost invisible mist, which catches the diffused light and gives the impression of a soft, luminous veil. You instinctively reach out to touch it, and it feels cool and refreshing, like a gentle caress on your skin. This isn't exactly a mainstream historical fact, but many ancient cultures did believe in spirits of the rivers and springs, often associated with healing or calming properties. Perhaps the river nymphs here just really enjoy a good nap. What truly stands out is the complete absence of any strong currents or winds. The air is always still, or at most, stirred by the gentlest of breezes, soft as a feather. This contributes significantly to the pervasive silence. Without the rustling of strong winds through leaves, or the crashing of powerful waves, the world is hushed. You hear the distant, continuous murmur of something, but it's so indistinct, so profoundly subtle, that it's almost more of a feeling than a sound, like the collective purr of 1,000 contented cats. You try to pinpoint the source, but your attention drifts, happily sidetracked by a particularly plush patch of moss, or the soft glow of another luminous mushroom. The ground itself seems to sigh. You notice that in places the earth gently rises and falls, as if the land itself is breathing in a slow, deep rhythm. It's an optical illusion, of course, caused by the subtle undulations and the way the muted light plays across the landscape, but it reinforces the sense of the island as a living, sleeping entity. You might find yourself unconsciously sensing your own breath with this imagined rhythm, slowing down, deepening your inhales and exhales, preparing your own body for the profound rest that this place promises. There are no sharp drops or precipices here, no perilous cliffs to navigate. Even where the land meets the sea, it does so with a gentle, shelving slope, inviting you to simply wade in and let the calm waters lap at your ankles. You see no signs of erosion from harsh weather, no evidence of violent storms. It's as if the elements themselves have agreed to an unspoken truce here, to allow this pocket of perpetual peace to exist undisturbed. Historians still argue whether the idea of such perfectly serene, idyllic landscapes in ancient myths was a reflection of ideal human societies, or simply a deep yearning for escape from the harsh realities of nature. Here, on this island, it feels like the ideal has become manifest. You might stumble upon small, natural hollows in the ground, perfectly formed and lined with the softest, most yielding moss. They look like natural cradles, custom-made for an impromptu nap. The urge to simply lie down in one, close your eyes, and surrender to the pervasive tranquility is almost overwhelming. You resist, for now, your curiosity still gently pulling you forward. But the thought lingers, a sweet temptation. This quirky tidbit of geological comfort adds to the island's unique charm, Who needs a hammock when the earth itself is so inviting? As you continue your gentle exploration, you realize that the air doesn't just feel still, it feels heavy, not oppressively so, but dense, as if it's infused with some unseen, soporific quality. It clings to your skin, gently pressing down, encouraging your muscles to relax, your limbs to grow heavy. You feel a familiar warmth spreading through your body, starting in your core and radiating outwards, a comforting heat that melts away any lingering tension. It's like being wrapped in a giant, invisible fleece blanket, warm and secure. Even the distant sound of the ocean, previously a soft sigh, seems to fade in and out, like a lullaby sung from far away, sometimes clear, sometimes just a whisper on the edge of hearing. It's a rhythm that pulls you in, a subtle, hypnotic beat that mirrors the slowing of your own heartbeat. You find yourself walking with a deliberate, unhurried pace, every movement a conscious act, yet performed with an effortless grace that belies any effort. This place isn't just about sleep. It's about the profound ease that comes before it, the gentle surrender to the inevitable. The very color palette of the island contributes to this atmosphere of repose. Dominant hues are soft greens, muted blues, and creamy whites, with occasional touches of pale lavender or rose, all blending seamlessly into one another. There are no jarring contrasts, no vibrant, eye-catching hues that might jolt you awake. Everything is designed to soothe the eye, to encourage a gentle softening of your gaze, a relaxation of your visual faculties. You find your eyes half closing, not because you're tired, but because the world itself seems to invite a dreamy, unfocused perspective. As you drift further into the heart of this somnolent isle, your senses, though dulled, begin to pick up on the island's most fascinating inhabitants, its unique flora and fauna. Forget vibrant rainforests or bustling savannas. Here, life seems to have embraced a slower, more deliberate pace, a perpetual state of agreeable drowsiness. The plants, for instance, are unlike anything you've seen. Many of them bear large, velvety leaves that unfurl slowly, like tired eyelids blinking open after a long rest. Their petals, where they exist, are often in shades of pale white, soft lavender, or a gentle cream, almost translucent, as if infused with moonlight. You notice clusters of what appear to be oversized, bulbous flowers, their heads gently bowed, exuding a faint, sweet aroma that seems to cling to the air. This scent is different from the pervasive, general fragrance of the island. It's more concentrated, almost palpable. If you lean closer, you might catch a whiff of something reminiscent of warm milk, or perhaps a faint, sweet spice, and a curious desire to curl up right there, nestled among their soft petals, washes over you. These plants, you instinctively understand, are the island's natural lullabies, their essence designed to soothe and calm. A peculiar tidbit: some ancient herbalists, though not specifically documented for an isle of somnus, did indeed concoct sleep aids from flowers with similar properties, often consumed as infusions or inhaled as vapors. They probably didn't look quite as plush as these, though. Then there are the trees. Their branches don't reach ambitiously for the sky. Instead, they droop gracefully, laden with heavy, pendulous fruits that look like oversized plums or figs, but with a skin that shimmers with an almost iridescent quality. These fruits, you surmise, must be incredibly ripe, perhaps even overripe, their sweetness having turned into a deep, languid richness. You imagine biting into one, and the thought alone makes your mouth water. Not with hunger, but with a strange yearning for comfort and satiety. Historians still argue whether the descriptions of dream fruits in various mythologies were allegories for altered states of consciousness or simply an early understanding of the effects of certain psychoactive plants. On this island, the line seems blissfully blurred. The fauna is equally peculiar. You don't encounter any bustling creatures, no chirping birds flitting frantically from branch to branch, no scurrying squirrels. Instead, the animals you do see are remarkably docile, almost perpetually on the verge of slumber. There are plump, fuzzy insects that buzz with a barely audible hum, drifting lazily from flower to flower. Their movements so slow you can almost perceive each beat of their delicate wings. You might spot what looks like a very round, very sleepy owl, perched, motionless, on a low branch, its eyes half closed, observing you with a placid, unblinking gaze that seems to hold ancient secrets of peaceful repose. You might even find yourself stifling a chuckle at the sheer dedication to relaxation these creatures embody. Seriously, even the bugs here are taking it easy. Small, furry mammals, reminiscent of oversized guinea pigs or very plump rabbits, occasionally waddle into view, moving with an unhurried grace. They graze on the soft moss and drooping leaves, their chewing movements slow and methodical, as if savoring every moment of their meal. They don't seem bothered by your presence, merely casting a drowsy glance in your direction before continuing their serene foraging. You observe one such creature simply stop mid-chew, lower its head onto the moss, and instantly begin to snore, a tiny, adorable rumble. It's a mainstream historical fact that many cultures throughout history have observed the sleeping habits of animals and drawn conclusions about human sleep, often associating certain animals with peace or omens. Here, the animals are just living examples of profound relaxation. Even the fish in the slow-moving streams are different. They glide with an almost imperceptible motion, their fins barely stirring the water, their bodies shimmering with iridescent scales that catch the diffused light. They seem to drift more than swim, carried by the gentle currents, occasionally nudging against a smooth river stone before continuing their languid journey. You could easily spend hours simply watching them, your own thoughts slowing to match their tranquil pace. The general impression is one of profound symbiosis. The plants provide the somnolent atmosphere, the animals embody the spirit of rest, and the entire ecosystem hums with a deep, pervasive quietude. There's no struggle for survival here, no frantic scramble for resources. Everything exists in a state of balance, a gentle harmony orchestrated by the omnipresent force of sleep. It's a reminder that sometimes the most profound forms of existence are not found in activity, but in stillness. The very air you breathe here feels infused with a soothing essence, a subtle sedative that gently unwinds your nerves and encourages your mind to release its grip on the anxieties of the waking world. You feel a deep, comforting warmth spreading through your limbs, a delightful heaviness that pulls you deeper into the island's embrace. As you continue your tranquil journey through the Isle of Somnus, you eventually come across vast, undulating fields that stretch as far as the eye can see, bathed in the perpetual, soft light. These aren't fields of wheat or corn, but something far more mesmerizing. Opium poppies. Thousands upon thousands of them, their large, delicate petals unfurling in shades of pale purple, soft pink, and creamy white. They sway almost imperceptibly in the still air, their heavy heads gently nodding, as if in a perpetual state of agreement with the island's overarching purpose. This is, you realize, a central pillar of the island's pervasive drowsiness. The air here is even heavier than elsewhere, thick with a sweet, narcotic fragrance that seems to cling to your very being. It's not an unpleasant smell, but rather deeply soothing, almost intoxicating in its ability to relax every muscle in your body. You feel your limbs growing delightfully heavy, your thoughts slowing to a gentle drift, like clouds across a lazy afternoon sky. It's a bit like being wrapped in a giant, invisible blanket of calm. You might even find yourself stifling a yawn, not out of boredom, but out of a profound sense of surrender to the atmosphere. You observe that the poppies are incredibly robust, growing without any signs of disease or pestilence. It's as if they, too, are in a state of perfect, undisturbed slumber, their life cycle unfolding with a quiet dignity. Their seed pods, when they appear, are plump and full, weeping tiny droplets of a milky white sap, glistening like morning dew. This sap, you know, is the source of the opium, the potent compound responsible for their profound effects. A mainstream historical fact. The opium poppy, Papaver somniferum, has been cultivated for millennia across various ancient civilizations for its medicinal and narcotic properties, often used as an analgesic and sedative. The Egyptians, for example, were quite fond of it, but here, on the Isle of Somnus, there's no sense of illicit production or dangerous harvesting. The fields are tended, if at all, by unseen hands, or perhaps by the sheer will of the island itself. There are no harvesters, no bustling activity. The poppies simply are, existing in their natural, soporific state, gently perfuming the air and contributing to the island's unique ambience. It's a quirk of this place. The very source of its sleepiness grows freely, without the need for human intervention. You wonder if the islanders simply absorb the narcotic through the air, or if there's a more deliberate, yet still incredibly relaxed, form of consumption. As you walk between the rows, your fingers lightly brush against the soft petals, and a subtle warmth spreads through your hand, traveling up your arm, enhancing the feeling of pleasant heaviness. You feel utterly safe here, protected by the pervasive drowsiness. There's no threat, no danger, only an invitation to deeper rest. Historians still argue whether ancient societies fully understood the addictive qualities of opium, or if its use was primarily ritualistic and medicinal, with the negative side effects either unknown or simply accepted as part of its power. On this island, such concerns seem entirely irrelevant. Here, it is a benevolent force. The light filters through the dense canopy of poppy heads, casting a kaleidoscope of soft shadows and diffused glows. It's almost hypnotic, like watching the gentle undulations of a calm sea. You could easily lose yourself in the endless expanse of these fields, your sense of direction fading, replaced by a profound sense of peace. The air hums with a barely perceptible vibration, a low, continuous frequency that seems to resonate with your own slowing heartbeat. You find yourself slowing your pace even further, almost floating through the field rather than walking. The sensation is one of being gently suspended, free from the burdens of gravity or effort. Each breath you take is deeper, more satisfying, as if your lungs are finally able to fully expand and relax. You feel the last vestiges of tension drain from your neck and shoulders, leaving you feeling wonderfully pliant and soft. This isn't just about feeling sleepy. It's about feeling utterly, profoundly at ease, as if every worry you ever had has simply dissolved into the fragrant air. The poppies seem to whisper secrets to you, not in words, but in sensations. They speak of ancient sleeps, of forgotten dreams, of the quiet wisdom found only in profound stillness. You feel a connection to something primal and ancient, something deeply rooted in the very act of resting. It's a reminder that sleep isn't just an absence of activity, but a rich and vital state of being, a journey into the restorative depths of the self. And as you pass through these endless fields, you realize that the Isle of Somnus isn't just a place where people sleep. It's a place that teaches you how to sleep, how to truly surrender to the profound peace of unconsciousness. Emerging from the vast, fragrant fields of opium poppies, you notice a subtle shift in the atmosphere. The air, already heavy with soporific scents, now carries something more. It's a gentle, almost imperceptible current, a constant, soft caress against your skin that feels profoundly soothing. These, you realize, are the whispering zephyrs of Wanaros, the very breezes that carry dreams and forgotten memories across the Isle of Somnus. They are the breath of the island, a slow, steady exhalation that promises deeper and deeper rest. You feel them first as a slight cooling on your cheek, then a subtle stirring of the hair on your arms. It's not a gust of wind, certainly not a chill, but rather a pervasive, gentle flow that seems to wrap around you like a warm embrace. It's the kind of subtle air movement that makes you instinctively close your eyes and sigh with contentment, a bit like the perfect fan setting on a summer night, just enough to be noticed, but never enough to disturb. You might even find yourself stifling a contented chuckle at how utterly perfect this gentle breeze is. As these zephyrs drift past, they seem to carry with them faint, shimmering motes of light, almost like microscopic dust motes illuminated by a soft, internal glow. These, you intuit, are the fragments of dreams, the ephemeral whispers of thoughts that have drifted from the minds of the island's perpetually slumbering inhabitants. You reach out, and they seem to dance on your fingertips, too delicate to truly grasp, yet leaving a faint, pleasant, tingling sensation. It's a quirky tidbit, but some ancient texts describe the soul or spirit leaving the body during sleep, sometimes as a luminous vapor or tiny particles. Here, you're practically swimming in them. A mainstream historical fact. Ancient Greek mythology, particularly Hesiod's Theogony, describes Oneros as one of the Onaroi, the gods of dreams, often depicted as winged figures who would deliver prophetic dreams to mortals. The zephyrs here feel like the very essence of these dream bringers, a continuous, benevolent stream of unconsciousness. You feel your own thoughts, previously clinging to the edges of your awareness, begin to unravel, softening into indistinct patterns, like a well-worn tapestry gently coming apart at the seams. The sound associated with these zephyrs is equally profound. It's a low, continuous murmur, not quite a hum, not quite a whisper, but something in between. It sounds like 1,000 distant sighs, a collective exhalation of pure contentment. It's the kind of sound that bypasses your ears and resonates directly in your chest, calming your heartbeat, slowing your breathing, and encouraging every muscle in your body to release its grip. You find yourself listening intently, yet without effort, simply letting the sound wash over you, pulling you deeper into the island's pervasive sense of peace. As the zephyrs flow, you feel a peculiar sense of déjà vu, a fleeting glimpse of forgotten memories, not your own, but perhaps fragments of ancient sleeps, echoes of dreams dreamt long ago. They are indistinct, elusive, like trying to recall the details of a dream just after waking. But the sensation itself is profoundly comforting. It's as if the island is gently reminding you of a primal state of rest, a forgotten heritage of tranquility that resides deep within all living things. Historians still argue whether the concept of shared unconsciousness or collective memory, as expressed in some mythological traditions, was a purely philosophical construct or an intuitive understanding of the interconnectedness of human experience. On the Isle of Somnus, it feels undeniably real. You find yourself walking with even less effort now, almost gliding through the air. The zephyrs seem to lift you gently, supporting your weight, making every step a delicious surrender to gravity's embrace. Your entire body feels incredibly light, yet simultaneously heavy with a delightful sense of impending slumber. It's a paradox that only this island could create. You stretch, a long, languid stretch that feels incredibly satisfying, and even that simple movement seems to dissipate into the pervasive calm. The scent carried by the zephyrs is ever present, but subtly changes. Sometimes it's the sweet, narcotic perfume of the poppies, sometimes a fainter, almost floral scent, like night-blooming jasmine, and at other times a clean, earthy smell, reminiscent of damp soil after a gentle rain. Each shift is subtle, a fleeting aroma that teases your senses before melting back into the general atmosphere of quietude. These subtle olfactory changes are like tiny, gentle nudges towards deeper relaxation, each one promising a slightly different flavor of peace. You might even catch yourself trying to breathe in time with the zephyrs, your own inhales and exhales deepening and slowing to match their languid rhythm. It's an unconscious act, a natural response to the island's pervasive influence. This isn't just a physical sensation, it's a mental and emotional one too. The zephyrs feel like they are gently stroking away any lingering anxieties, smoothing out the jagged edges of your thoughts, leaving your mind feeling clear, unburdened, and delightfully ready for a long, deep sleep. You feel utterly safe, utterly secure, and utterly at peace. Leaving the gentle caress of the zephyrs of Oneros behind, you find yourself drawn towards a new geographical feature, one that promises an even deeper surrender to the island's pervasive tranquility. The rivers of Lethe's lullaby. These are not turbulent, rushing waterways, but broad, incredibly slow-moving rivers, their surfaces so utterly placid that they reflect the muted sky like polished pewter. Their current is barely perceptible, a languid drift that seems to flow not just across the land, but through time itself. As you approach the bank, you notice the peculiar quality of the water. It's not perfectly clear, but has a slight, pearlescent haze, shimmering with an ethereal glow, as if infused with moonlight and forgotten dreams. You feel an irresistible urge to dip your hand into the cool, silken liquid. As your fingertips brush the surface, a profound calm washes over you, deeper than anything you've experienced so far. It's a sense of release, a gentle unburdening of all worries and concerns, as if the water itself is absorbing every lingering tension. You might even find yourself stifling a soft, contented sigh, a ripple of peace spreading through your entire being. This feeling, you realize, is the touch of Lethe, the river of oblivion from Greek mythology, a mainstream historical fact. In ancient Greek belief, drinking from the river Lethe in the underworld caused souls to forget their earthly lives before reincarnation. On this island, the river's influence is far more benevolent, designed not to erase your entire past, but to gently loosen your mind's grip on the anxieties and busy details of your present. It's like a soft reset for your mental hard drive, easing away the clutter without wiping everything clean. The sound of the river is not a gurgle or a splash, but a continuous, low hum, almost a vibration that resonates in the very air. It's the sound of profound stillness, of water moving with such unhurried grace that it barely disturbs itself. It's a lullaby without words, a soothing drone that encourages your eyelids to droop, your thoughts to dissolve into a pleasant haze. This quirky tidbit of auditory solace is key to the river's power. It's a sound designed not to be heard, but to be felt, a gentle thrumming that whispers promises of deep, dreamless sleep. You notice that the vegetation along the riverbanks is particularly lush and soft, the mosses thicker, the drooping plants more abundant. They seem to lean into the river, their leaves almost caressing the water's surface, drawing sustenance from its calming essence. You see large, smooth stones, worn perfectly round by the languid current, some of them half submerged, inviting you to sit and simply observe, to let the flow of the river wash over your consciousness. You might even imagine ancient philosophers, lost in quiet contemplation, dipping their toes into these very waters, finding solace in its profound forgetfulness. As you sit or stand by the river, the sense of time begins to truly unravel. Moments stretch into eternities, yet without any boredom or impatience. There's no desire to rush, no urge to know what comes next. You are simply here, suspended in a timeless present, enveloped by the river's gentle embrace. The forgotten memories carried by the zephyrs of Oneros are now gently smoothed away by Lethe's waters, leaving behind only a tranquil void, a mind wiped clean of unnecessary clutter. Historians still argue whether the concept of forgetting as a path to peace, often associated with Lethe, represented a desire for liberation from suffering or a philosophical understanding of the mind's need for periodic renewal. Here, on this island, it feels like pure liberation. You find yourself observing the small, drowsy fish drifting in the current, their movements even slower here, almost suspended. They seem to be in a perpetual state of quiet meditation, embodying the river's spirit of serene detachment. You could watch them for what feels like hours, your gaze unfocused, your mind wonderfully blank. The gentle, almost imperceptible undulations of the river's surface become a hypnotic focal point, drawing you deeper into its calming spell. The air around the river is even cooler, a refreshing contrast to the warm, soporific air of the poppy fields. Yet it's not cold enough to rouse you. It's just a subtle, calming coolness that seems to further soothe your senses, preparing them for profound rest. You feel your eyelids growing heavier still, your head nodding almost imperceptibly. This is not the struggle against sleep, but the gentle, willing surrender to its inescapable embrace. You are being lulled exquisitely and irrevocably into a deeper state of calm, drifting away from the calming influence of the rivers of Lethe's lullaby. Your gaze begins to discern structures emerging from the soft mists. These aren't the sharp, angular buildings of the waking world, but something entirely different: the architecture of repose. Every edifice on this island seems designed not just for shelter, but for ultimate comfort and slumber, as if the very stones themselves are exhaling sighs of contentment. The buildings are predominantly low-slung, their roofs gently sloped, almost melting into the surrounding landscape. There are no towering spires or grand, imposing facades. Instead, you see rounded arches, smooth, flowing lines, and walls that curve inward, embracing you rather than standing starkly against the sky. The materials used seem soft and yielding a pale, porous stone that looks almost like solidified cloud, or perhaps a smooth, polished wood that gleams with a faint, internal luminescence. It's like stepping into a giant, perfectly cushioned blanket fort for adults. You might even find yourself stifling a chuckle, imagining the ancient architects dozing off mid-design, only to wake and realize their drowsy sketches were utterly perfect. Windows are few and far between, and where they exist, they are often small and deeply recessed, softened by thick, velvety curtains that seem perpetually drawn. The purpose, you realize, isn't to let light in, but to keep harsh light out, maintaining the perpetual twilight that blankets the island. This ensures the interiors are always dim, bathed in a gentle, diffused glow that encourages relaxation rather than alertness. You instinctively feel your eyes relax, no longer straining against bright contrasts. The doorways are wide and inviting, unadorned by grand ornamentation, simply beckoning you inward. As you pass through one, the air inside feels even more hushed, more still than outside. The floors are padded with thick, plush rugs made from some unknown, incredibly soft fiber, muffling every sound, making your footsteps virtually silent. You feel a profound sense of warmth and enclosure, a feeling of being safely cocooned away from any possible disturbance. This quirky tidbit of architectural design buildings, specifically crafted to induce sleep, speaks volumes about the island's core purpose: mainstream historical fact. Throughout history, various cultures have incorporated elements into their architecture to promote calm and rest, such as the use of courtyards for peaceful contemplation in Roman villas, or the strategic placement of water features for soothing sounds in Japanese gardens. But here, the entire philosophy of construction seems dedicated solely to profound relaxation. The interior spaces are vast and uncluttered, designed for spaciousness and ease of movement, or rather, ease of non-movement. There are no sharp corners to bump into, no narrow passageways to navigate. Every piece of furniture, where it exists, is oversized and incredibly soft divans that look like luxurious clouds. Beds so deep and plush, they seem to invite you to simply melt into them. You might see low tables, perfectly rounded, perhaps holding a single, unlit, gently fragrant incense stick, or a small, smooth stone that radiates a calming warmth. You notice that the few decorative elements are simple and organic: smooth, river-worn pebbles arranged in gentle spirals, or large, unglazed ceramic bowls filled with the same soporific flowers you saw earlier. There's an emphasis on natural textures and subtle scents, a complete absence of anything jarring or stimulating. The color palette indoors mirrors the outside: muted greens, pale blues, soft creams, and lavenders, all blending into a seamless, dreamlike harmony. Historians still argue whether the minimalist approach seen in some ancient living spaces was a philosophical choice for simplicity or simply a reflection of resource availability. On the Isle of Somnus, it feels like a conscious, deliberate decision to remove all distractions, all visual noise, to create a perfect canvas for inner peace and ultimate repose. Every surface seems to whisper, lie down, rest, let go. Even the lighting, when it comes from an internal source, is soft and indirect, emanating from unseen sources, casting no harsh shadows. It's the kind of light that makes your eyelids feel heavy and your vision pleasantly blurred at the edges, a prelude to drifting off. The air inside these structures is consistently temperate, never too warm, never too cool, maintained by a natural, almost magical climate control that prevents any discomfort. You feel an overwhelming urge to simply sink into one of those impossibly soft divans, to let your body be cradled by the plushness, and to allow the soothing architecture to enfold you in its comforting embrace. This is not just a dwelling. It is a profound invitation, a silent promise of unparalleled peace, where every beam, every wall, every curve seems to hum with the essence of deep, restorative sleep. The very air seems to sigh with contentment inside these structures, drawing you further into the island's core purpose. Having experienced the unparalleled comfort of the architecture of repose, you begin to observe the daily rhythms of rest that govern life on the Isle of Somnus. This isn't a place of bustling schedules or urgent appointments. Instead, the inhabitants follow a slow, deliberate, and deeply dreamlike routine centered almost entirely around napping and idleness. It's a beautifully unhurried existence, a stark contrast to the frantic pace of the world you left behind. You notice that there's no frantic rush to greet the day, if you can even call it that, given the perpetual twilight. Instead, individuals, or small, languid groups, slowly emerge from the soft, curved dwellings whenever they feel inclined. There's no set breakfast time, no morning commute. Each movement is unhurried, each gesture imbued with a profound sense of peace. You might see someone stretching, a long, leisurely stretch that seems to melt away any lingering stiffness, before gently sinking onto a mossy bank for what looks suspiciously like a morning nap. It's truly a sight to behold. Even there, yawns seem to be performed with an artistic flair. Meals are sporadic and light, taken whenever hunger gently stirs. There are no grand feasts or boisterous gatherings. Instead, individuals might pluck a ripened, heavy fruit from a drooping tree, or sip from a gourd filled with a mild, calming infusion. The act of eating itself is slow, deliberate, almost a meditative process. Each bite savored, each sip a moment of quiet contentment. There's no talk of digestion, no concern for calories, just a gentle, nourishing satisfaction. This quirky tidbit of dining etiquette, only when the body truly whispers hunger, is a testament to the island's unique lifestyle. The main activity, if it can be called that, appears to be napping. Short naps, long naps, midday naps, afternoon naps, even just because of feel-like-it naps. You see individuals sprawled gracefully on soft moss, nestled into the hollows of trees, or simply reclining on wide, plush divans, their breathing slow and even. There's no shame in it, no sense of missed productivity. Here, sleep is not a chore to be squeezed in, but the very fabric of existence, a sacred practice. mainstream historical fact. Many ancient cultures, especially in warmer climates, incorporated midday siestas into their daily routines for practical reasons, escaping the heat and promoting rest. The islanders simply took that concept and elevated it to an art form. Conversation, when it occurs, is soft and murmured, often punctuated by long, comfortable silences. There's no sharp debate, no urgent declarations. Thoughts are shared gently, dreamily, sometimes trailing off unfinished, understood through unspoken empathy. You might hear a quiet chuckle or a soft hum, but never anything that would disturb the profound stillness. It's a reminder that sometimes the most profound connections are made in quietude, not in constant chatter. Even what little work is done seems to be a form of meditative practice. If a plant needs tending, it's done with gentle, deliberate movements, almost like a dance. If something needs mending, it's approached with infinite patience, each stitch a quiet act of devotion. There's no sense of urgency, no deadlines, no pressure. Every task flows into the next, part of an endless, serene cycle. Historians still argue whether the concept of work as meditation, seen in some monastic traditions, arose from practical necessity or a deeper spiritual understanding of human activity. On this island, it feels like an innate, natural state. As the perpetually soft light of the island gently shifts, becoming perhaps a shade deeper, a communal winding down takes place, though without any overt signals. Individuals simply gravitate towards their sleeping places, not with a sense of duty, but with a deep, happy anticipation. There are no frantic preparations, no last-minute tasks. The transition from waking to slumber is seamless, a gentle ebb and flow. You might even see individuals lying down together, not in strict formations, but simply near one another, a comforting presence of shared repose. The air fills with the soft symphony of gentle breathing, a collective sigh of contentment that permeates the entire island. You realize that the very atmosphere here is a co-creation, a shared state of deep relaxation that feeds into itself, growing stronger with each tranquil breath taken by its inhabitants. This isn't just a place to relax, it's a living, breathing ecosystem of peace. Having witnessed the languid daily rhythms of the islanders, your attention might naturally turn to the very sustenance that fuels their serene existence, the food and drink of slumber. Forget gourmet feasts or energetic superfoods. Here, the culinary philosophy is entirely aligned with the island's pervasive tranquility, emphasizing bland, starchy foods and mild, soporific beverages designed to induce comfort and ease, never stimulation. You'll notice that there are no bustling markets or elaborate kitchens. Food seems to appear effortlessly, perhaps gathered from the perpetually yielding flora of the island, or prepared with such minimal effort that it blends seamlessly into the atmosphere of repose. The meals are simple, often consisting of soft, mushy grains that resemble ancient porridges, or root vegetables that have been gently steamed until incredibly tender. Imagine the kind of comfort food your grandmother might make after a particularly long day, but even more soothing. You might even find yourself stifling a gentle sigh of contentment at the sheer lack of culinary drama. The flavors are subtle, almost ethereal. There are no sharp spices, no pungent herbs, nothing to jolt the palate awake. Instead, you encounter a gentle sweetness, a mild earthiness, and a pervasive creaminess that coats your mouth with a pleasant, lingering sensation. It's the kind of food that requires no effort to digest, sliding down easily, leaving you feeling comfortably full, but never heavy or bloated. This quirk of cuisine food, designed to put you to sleep rather than energize you, is a mainstream historical fact. Many ancient diets, particularly in agrarian societies, relied heavily on simple, starchy staples like grains and root vegetables, often prepared as gruels or breads. While not specifically for sleep induction, these foods provided sustained energy without the stimulating effects of more complex or highly processed meals. The islanders, however, have clearly refined this concept with a specific end goal in mind. Accompanying these gentle edibles are the island's signature beverages. These are not robust teas or invigorating coffees, but mild, calming infusions. You might be offered a warm, milky drink, slightly sweetened with a faint, floral aroma that hints at the soporific poppies or other tranquil plants you observed earlier. Or perhaps a clear, cool infusion, tasting subtly of spring water and a hint of something gently herbaceous, designed to cleanse and calm. They are served in smooth, rounded gourds or simple, unadorned clay cups, warm to the touch, adding to the overall feeling of comfort. There's no clinking of cutlery, no loud chewing sounds. Eating and drinking are silent, almost reverent acts, performed with a deliberate slowness. You find yourself savoring each mouthful, not out of intense hunger, but out of a profound appreciation for the gentle nourishment. The act itself is a meditation, a gentle unwinding of the senses. Historians still argue whether ancient dietary practices, particularly those emphasizing blandness or simplicity, were purely practical or also held philosophical or spiritual significance, promoting inner calm and detachment from worldly desires. On the Isle of Somnus, it feels undeniably spiritual in its soothing effect. You might see inhabitants simply sitting, a half-eaten bowl of mush or a half-empty cup beside them, their eyes gently closed, already drifting into a light doze. The food isn't a reason to stay awake. It's a gentle transition to the next period of rest. There's no pressure to finish, no concern for waste. The island provides abundantly, and its inhabitants consume only what they need in the most serene manner possible. The collective effect of this diet is profound. You feel a deep, pervasive warmth spreading through your stomach, a comforting fullness that settles your entire being. Any lingering jitters or anxieties simply melt away, replaced by a profound sense of inner peace. Your body feels light, yet pleasantly heavy, a perfect balance for drifting off. It's as if your digestive system has been gently lulled into a state of blissful quietude, requiring no strenuous effort, merely a soft, continuous hum of contentment. This isn't just sustenance, it's a gastronomic pathway to dreamland, every bite and sip a whispered promise of sweet oblivion. Having absorbed the serene atmosphere of the island through its gentle rhythms and soothing sustenance, you begin to perceive the subtle yet profound workings of its social structure of slumber. On the Isle of Somnus, the concepts of hierarchy, ambition, and frantic striving seem utterly alien, replaced by a profound sense of shared peace and collective idleness. It's a society where the greatest accomplishment is perhaps the deepest nap. There are no overt leaders, no imposing figures of authority. Decisions, if they are even called that, appear to emerge organically from a collective state of quiet agreement. or perhaps simply by the path of least resistance, which, on this island, always seems to lead to more relaxation. You don't see anyone issuing commands or organizing large-scale projects. Instead, life unfolds with a spontaneous harmony, each individual drifting through their tranquil day, seamlessly contributing to the overall atmosphere of repose. It's almost as if everyone has collectively agreed that the best way to run things is to not run things. You might even find yourself stifling a soft. The relationships between inhabitants are characterized by a profound gentleness and an unspoken understanding. There are no arguments, no disputes, no sharp disagreements. When interactions occur, they are soft, murmured, and often punctuated by long, comfortable silences. You might see two individuals simply sitting near each other, their eyes closed, sharing a profound moment of quietude without the need for words. It's a bit like a perpetual group meditation session, but with more napping involved. A mainstream historical fact. Many early human societies, particularly hunter-gatherer groups, often operated with a much flatter social hierarchy than later, more complex civilizations, with decisions often made through consensus rather than top-down authority. The islanders here seem to embody an idealized version of this, driven by a shared inclination towards peace rather than survival. The concept of work as a burdensome chore simply doesn't exist. Any tasks that need doing, gathering soft fruits, tending the poppy fields, or gently polishing the smooth stones of their dwellings are performed with a meditative calm, as part of the flow of the day, rather than as obligations. There's no sense of urgency or productivity, only a quiet, almost spiritual engagement with the environment. This quirky tidbit of societal organization where work is indistinguishable from leisure. Due to its gentle paces, a delightful subversion of modern sensibilities. There's also a complete absence of judgment or competition. No one is striving to be better, faster, or more efficient. The only goal, if you can call it that, is simply to exist in a state of profound peace and rest. Individuals move at their own pace, and their needs are met with a quiet ease, without any sense of struggle or lack. This creates an atmosphere of pervasive contentment, where the energy that might otherwise be spent on ambition is instead channeled into profound relaxation. Historians still argue whether utopian societies depicted in literature and philosophy were genuine proposals for social reform or simply expressions of deeply ingrained human desires for escape from conflict and labor. On the Isle of Somnus, it feels less like a constructed utopia and more like a natural evolution, a society perfectly adapted to its unique environment of perpetual slumber. You notice that even the way the islanders interact with their children, if any are present, is marked by this pervasive gentleness. There are no boisterous games or loud shouts. Instead, you might see an adult softly humming a lullaby to a drowsy child, or simply cradling them in their arms, both seemingly on the verge of sleep. The education, if it exists, feels less like formal instruction and more like gentle osmosis, a quiet absorption of the island's serene ways. The overall impression is one of a vast, interconnected consciousness, a collective dream. Each individual is a gentle ripple in a larger, calm pool, their presence adding to the overall tranquility without ever disrupting it. You feel your own desire for achievement or external validation slowly dissipate, replaced by a profound acceptance of the simple beauty of existence. This isn't just a society, It's a profound, living meditation on the art of letting go, a testament to the power of collective serenity. Having observed the tranquil social structure, you now notice the subtle yet profound ways the islanders engage with the arts of drowsy expression. Forget dramatic performances or bold, vibrant paintings. Here, art is an extension of the island's pervasive calm, expressed in unhurried, gentle forms designed to soothe the senses and encourage contemplation rather than stimulate or excite. You might come across individuals engaged in what appears to be textile work, but unlike the rapid clatter of a loom, their movements are incredibly slow and deliberate. They weave soft, natural fibers, perhaps spun from the drooping plants or the incredibly fine mosses, into large, yielding blankets and wall hangings. The patterns are simple, flowing curves and gentle spirals, echoing the natural forms of the island. The colors are muted, blending seamlessly, shades of cream, pale gray, and soft lavender. This isn't a process of creation. It's more like a meditation, each stitch a gentle push towards deeper quietude. You could easily imagine someone just watching this process for hours, slowly drifting off themselves. Then there's the music. It's not performed with instruments that demand attention, but rather with soft, resonant chimes made from hollowed gourds or smooth, river-worn stones. The sounds they produce are low, sustained tones that seem to hang in the air, slowly fading into silence before another gentle strike. There are no sudden crescendos, no jarring rhythms. The melodies, if you can call them that, are simple, repetitive, and deeply hypnotic, like a subtle, continuous hum. You might hear a gentle plucking sound from a stringed instrument made of stretched fibers, producing notes so soft they almost disappear into the pervasive mist. This quirky tidbit of ambient sound design truly exemplifies the island's commitment to quietude. It's music designed to lull, not to awaken. A mainstream historical fact. Ancient cultures often used music and repetitive rhythms in rituals or for healing purposes, recognizing their power to alter states of consciousness. Think of the rhythmic drumming used in shamanic traditions or the repetitive chants in various spiritual practices. On the Isle of Somnus, the music serves a singular purpose: profound relaxation. Storytelling, too, takes on a unique form. There are no boisterous tales of adventure or dramatic conflicts. Instead, stories are whispered, murmured, often trailing off as the teller or the listener drifts into a gentle doze. The narratives are episodic, fragmented, more like a collection of beautiful, half-remembered dreams than a linear plot. They might describe the slow growth of a particularly beautiful flower, the quiet journey of a stone down a river, or the life of a perpetually drowsy creature. The emphasis is on immersive their detail, not on dramatic tension. You'll notice that these forms of expression are not for an audience in the conventional sense. There are no performances, no art galleries. The art is simply created for the sake of creation, or rather, for the sake of the calming effect it has on the creator. And any audience simply drifts in and out, absorbing the soothing vibrations and visuals without expectation or critique. Historians still argue whether some ancient art forms, particularly those found in funerary contexts or personal spiritual practices, were primarily for contemplation and personal solace rather than public display. Here, on this island, it feels like all art exists for that inner peace. Even the acts of daily life on the island become a form of art. the gentle gathering of fruits, the slow sifting of grains, the quiet tending of the drowsy animals. Each action is performed with such deliberate grace and focus that it transcends mere utility and becomes a meditative dance. There's an unhurried beauty in every movement, a quiet poetry in every gesture. As you absorb these artistic expressions, you feel a gentle softening of your own inner dialogue. The constant stream of thoughts, the mental chatter, begins to quiet. Your mind feels less like a busy marketplace and more like a still pond, reflecting the soft, muted light, the subtle harmonies, the soothing textures, the whispered tales all combine to create an immersive environment that gently draws you away from the analytical mind and deeper into a state of pure, unadulterated sensation. This isn't just about experiencing art. It's about art becoming the pathway to your own profound repose. As your journey continues through the soft, hazy contours of the Isle of Somnus, you're gently drawn towards its spiritual heart, the sleep temples of Morpheus. These aren't grand, imposing structures, but rather exquisitely serene buildings nestled amongst the drowsy flora, their architecture seamlessly blending with the island's pervasive theme of repose. They are places designed not for boisterous worship, but for quiet contemplation and, crucially, for the interpretation of dreams. Approaching one such temple, you notice its entrance is always open, a silent invitation. The air inside is even more profound in its stillness, imbued with a deep sense of reverence and calm. The light is incredibly subdued, filtering through stained glass, made not of colored glass, but of thinly sliced, translucent stones that glow with a soft, internal luminescence, casting gentle, shifting patterns on the padded floor. It's like stepping into a vast, whispering cave, carved by eons of collective dreams. You might even find yourself stifling a soft, reverent sigh at the sheer tranquility. Within, the spaces are large, circular, or gently curving, designed to promote a sense of boundless ease. There are no pews or altars in the conventional sense. Instead, you see scattered arrangements of incredibly soft, oversized cushions and low divans, inviting you to recline in comfort. In the center of some chambers, a shallow pool of the pearlescent, calming water might gently shimmer, its surface disturbed only by the occasional, almost imperceptible ripple. This quirky tidbit of liquid architecture, a dream mirror pool within a temple, is a unique feature, allowing for visual meditation on the nature of subconsciousness. Mainstream historical fact: many ancient cultures, including the Greeks and Egyptians, had sleep temples, or asclepia, where ill or troubled individuals would undergo incubation, a process of ritual sleep designed to induce healing dreams or receive divine guidance. While the Morpheus temples on this island share the concept of seeking insight through dreams, their purpose feels broader, encompassing a general spiritual connection to the realm of slumber. The primary activity within these temples is dream interpretation. You might observe an islander, eyes gently closed, softly murmuring the fragments of a recent dream to a silent, equally serene companion. The interpreter doesn't offer grand pronouncements or definitive analyses. Instead, they respond with soft questions, gentle reflections, or sometimes simply a knowing, empathetic silence, encouraging the dream sharer to delve deeper into their own subconscious. The process is not about finding answers, but about exploring the rich tapestry of the inner world, guided by the benevolent spirit of Morpheus. Historians still argue whether ancient dream interpretation practices were seen as genuine communication with deities, as psychological insights, or as a form of communal storytelling. On the Isle of Somnus, it feels like a blend of all three, with an emphasis on the profound peace that comes from understanding one's own internal narratives. There's no sense of urgency or crisis. Every dream is simply another gentle ripple in the vast ocean of sleep. You notice that certain areas of the temple have small, meticulously arranged collections of objects, smooth, polished stones, clusters of dried fragrant poppies, or delicate feather-light effigies woven from dream silk. These are not offerings in the sense of sacrifice, but rather personal anchors for dreamers, quiet tokens to help them recall or ground their experiences. Each one radiates a soft, personal energy, a quiet hum of profound inner peace. The silence here is not empty. It's filled with the palpable presence of countless dreams dreamt, countless quiet awakenings to inner wisdom. You feel an almost tangible sense of tranquility washing over you, dissolving any lingering mental chatter. Your mind, previously a bustling marketplace, now feels like a vast, open sky, ready to welcome the gentle whispers of unconsciousness. This isn't just a place of worship. It's a profound sanctuary for the sleeping soul, a quiet testament to the sacred art of dreaming. Having absorbed the tranquil ambience of the sleep temples, you find yourself drawn into observing the truly unique customs of the island, the ancient rites of nap-taking. This isn't merely about individuals drifting off to sleep. It's a series of peculiar, almost ritualistic practices associated with achieving profound restorative slumber. For the islanders, a nap isn't just a break. It's a sacred art. You might notice certain individuals preparing for their nap with a deliberate grace. They might gently comb their fingers through their hair, or softly stroke their arms, as if smoothing out invisible wrinkles of worry. Others might lightly brush the soft moss beneath them, shaping it into a perfect cradle for their head. A quirky tidbit that demonstrates their meticulous dedication to comfort. It's like a pre-sleep meditation, each gentle movement a step closer to oblivion. You might even find yourself stifling a soft chuckle at the sheer dedication to the craft of dozing. Some of these rites involve a subtle interplay with the island's environment. You might see an islander slowly arranging a few of the luminous expulsing mushrooms around their resting spot, as if drawing comfort from their soft, internal light. Or perhaps they cup their hands and gently fan the air towards their face, inviting the whispering zephyrs of Oneros to enfold them in their dream-laden embrace. These are not grand gestures, but rather quiet, personal rituals performed with an almost unconscious grace. A mainstream historical fact. Throughout history, various cultures have developed rituals around sleep. From evening prayers and bedtime stories to specific bathing practices, or the use of certain incense and herbs to promote rest. While the specifics differ, the underlying human desire to prepare for and enhance the sleep experience is universal. The islanders, however, have truly made it their central preoccupation. One common practice seems to be the gentle vocalization of a low, continuous hum, almost a purr, as they settle down. It's not a song with words, but a soft, resonant vibration that seems to emanate from deep within their chests. This hum appears to lull not only themselves, but also those nearby, creating a shared field of tranquil sounds. It's a bit like a collective catnap, all purrs and no meows. This unique form of self-soothing is a fascinating aspect of their sleep preparation. Historians still argue whether ancient lullabies and chants were primarily for soothing infants, or also served a broader purpose of calming adults and facilitating communal rest. On the Isle of Somnus, this gentle humming definitely feels like a communal, adult-oriented form of sonic solace. You might observe islanders gently stroking a smooth, river-worn stone, its coolness a subtle anchor as they drift away. Or perhaps they lightly press their palms together, then slowly separate them, as if releasing any lingering tension into the air. These actions are performed with such profound intentionality, yet without any effort, that they become mesmerizing to watch. The transition from wakefulness to nap is seamless. There's no sudden collapse or struggle against consciousness. Instead, it's a gradual, graceful descent, a gentle softening of features, a slow closing of the eyes. The body seems to melt into the moss or the cushions, becoming one with the yielding surface. The breathing deepens, becoming slow and rhythmic, like the soft sigh of the ocean you first heard upon arrival. You feel an almost irresistible urge to join them, to mimic their soothing movements, to surrender to the pervasive calm. The air itself seems to thicken with the collective intention of rest, drawing you deeper into its embrace. It's a profound testament to the power of shared tranquility, a beautiful ritual where every individual's nap contributes to the island's overarching atmosphere of peace. This isn't just about sleeping. It's about the conscious, deliberate cultivation of profound serenity through the art of the nap. After witnessing the intricate, ancient rites of nap-taking, you now find yourself encountering perhaps the grandest expression of the island's commitment to repose, the great siesta festivals. These aren't raucous celebrations, but rather island-wide events dedicated to extended periods of profound communal rest. Imagine a music festival, but instead of headliners and mosh pits, everyone is simply gently snoozing. You might even find yourself stifling a soft, amused chuckle at the sheer dedication to collective relaxation. These festivals are not marked by banners or loud announcements, but by a subtle shift in the island's already tranquil atmosphere. A pervasive, soft hum deepens, and the air seems to shimmer with an almost palpable anticipation of profound peace. Islanders, instead of gathering in a central plaza, slowly spread out across vast, designated areas, often expansive meadows adorned with the softest mosses and gentle, luminous flora. There's no rush to claim a spot. Everyone settles with a quiet grace, finding their perfect patch of yielding earth, a mainstream historical fact. Many ancient cultures had festivals tied to seasonal changes, harvests, or religious observances, often involving communal feasting and celebration. The Isle of Somnus takes this concept and redefines celebration as a collective dive into unconsciousness. Here, the feast is one of tranquility, and the revelry is measured in the depth of one's slumber. You notice that families and groups of friends often recline near each other, forming loose, comforting clusters. Yet, there's no pressure to interact. Each individual enters their own personal realm of sleep, yet benefits from the shared field of calm created by the collective unconsciousness. It's a bit like a giant, perfectly synchronized sleep-in, where everyone contributes to the overall cloud of comfort. The great siesta festivals are characterized by an even deeper level of environmental integration. The poppies seem to release their most potent, soothing fragrances during these times, bathing the air in a thick, sweet perfume. The gentle zephyrs circulate with an almost deliberate intent, carrying whispers of shared dreams and lulling sensations across the assembled sleepers. It's as if the island itself participates, actively cradling its inhabitants in a collective embrace. This quirky tidbit of communal dreaming, the idea that a shared space for sleep might lead to overlapping or interconnected dreams, is a fascinating aspect of these festivals. While no one is actively discussing their dream experiences during the festival because they're asleep, of course, there's a subtle sense that the boundaries between individual minds become wonderfully blurred in this shared state of repose. Historians still argue whether the concept of a collective unconscious, as posited by some later psychological theories, has roots in ancient communal practices or shared myths. On the Isle of Somnus, you feel its undeniable presence. There are no formal rituals or ceremonies during the festivals beyond the simple act of lying down and surrendering. The only music is the soft symphony of gentle breathing and the occasional profound snore blending into the ambient hum of the island. The only performance is the quiet beauty of bodies utterly at peace, limbs relaxed, faces softened by the touch of deep slumber. These periods of communal rest can last for what feels like days, though time itself becomes utterly irrelevant during the festivals. Individuals stir occasionally, perhaps to sip from a nearby gourd of calming liquid, or to shift into a more comfortable position before gracefully descending back into the depths of sleep. There's no alarm clock, no sense of needing to wake up at a particular time. The awakening is gradual, gentle, and utterly natural, as if the island itself signals the end of the collective repose. As you observe these serene gatherings, you feel an overwhelming sense of belonging, a profound connection to the universal human need for rest. All the anxieties of the waking world, the striving, the constant doing, seem utterly frivolous in the face of such profound, shared tranquility. The great siesta festivals are not just about sleep. They are a living testament to the power of collective peace, a quiet revolution of repose. After experiencing the magnificent communal rest of the great siesta festivals, you begin to truly understand how the islanders manage communication with somnolence. This isn't about rapid-fire debates or urgent pronouncements. Instead, their communication is as slow, soft, and often dreamlike as the island itself. It's a linguistic ballet of whispers and knowing silences. You notice that voices are always hushed, barely above a murmur. There's no shouting, no raised tones, as such sounds would be jarring and utterly out of place in this tranquil world. When an islander speaks, their words are drawn out, unhurried, as if each syllable is given ample time to fully unfurl and be absorbed. It's a bit like listening to a story told entirely in slow motion, where every pause is as significant as every word. You might even find yourself stifling a soft, admiring sigh at the sheer patience in their interactions. The vocabulary itself seems curated for calm. Harsh words, sharp descriptors, or terms of urgency appear to be entirely absent from their lexicon. Instead, their language is rich with words for softness, stillness, comfort, and the various nuances of sleep and dreams. They might describe a particularly satisfying nap with a phrase that evokes the warmth of a sun-drenched stone, or a fleeting dream with words that paint a picture of iridescent mist. This quirky tidbit of linguistic gentleness demonstrates a profound alignment between language and lifestyle. Mainstream historical fact: many ancient cultures, especially those with oral traditions, often emphasized eloquence and rhythmic speech, sometimes using repetition and subtle phrasing to convey meaning and emotion. While not explicitly for sleep, these linguistic styles could be inherently more calming than the clipped, fast-paced speech common in many modern societies. The islanders have taken this to an extreme, where the very act of speaking is a soothing experience. Body language is equally subdued. Gestures are minimal, slow, and flowing, never abrupt. An inclination of the head, a gentle shift in posture, or the soft closing of eyes can convey entire sentences of understanding or agreement. It's as if their communication has transcended the need for overt expression, relying instead on a subtle, shared telepathy of contentment. Historians still argue whether nonverbal communication was a more dominant form of interaction in certain ancient societies, particularly before widespread literacy, leading to a heightened sensitivity to subtle cues. On the Isle of Somnus, it feels like an art form perfected by millennia of shared repose. One of the most striking aspects is the importance of silence. Long pauses are not awkward. They are an integral part of the conversation, allowing thoughts to gently form, or simply allowing the other person to absorb the atmosphere. Sometimes, a conversation might simply fade into a shared, comfortable silence with no need for a formal ending. It's like a whispered secret that's shared, not for its content, but for the peaceful intimacy it creates. You realize that a profound connection can be forged in the quiet spaces between words, in the shared experience of simply being together. You might even notice a tendency for islanders to finish each other's sentences, not out of impatience, but out of an intuitive understanding, a collective mind that moves in serene synchronicity. Or perhaps they simply drift off mid-sentence, trusting that the other person will understand and, likely, follow suit into a gentle doze. It's a remarkably unhurried way of exchanging ideas, where comprehension blossoms not from intellectual rigor, but from a profound state of shared relaxation. The very concept of urgent news or rapid dissemination of information seems alien here. Any message, no matter its content, is delivered with the same gentle slowness, giving ample time for it to settle into the receiver's consciousness. There's no need to react quickly, no pressure to respond immediately. The prevailing philosophy seems to be, whatever it is, it can wait. As you immerse yourself in this gentle mode of communication, you feel your own internal monologue slow down. The urge to formulate quick responses or witty retorts dissipates. Your mind becomes more receptive, more open to subtle nuances, more attuned to the quiet currents of shared understanding. It's a liberating experience, a reminder that true connection often resides not in what is said, but in the profound silence and shared presence that surrounds it. Having quietly observed the unique communication patterns of the islanders, your awareness shifts to the gentle phenomenon of the arrival of the restless. On the Isle of Somnus, outsiders occasionally arrive, drawn by some inexplicable pull, or perhaps simply by chance. These newcomers, accustomed to the frantic pace of the waking world, are initially resistant, their minds still buzzing with urgency and ambition. Yet, inevitably, they slowly, subtly, succumb to the island's pervasive charm, softening into its rhythm of peace. You might spot a newly arrived figure, perhaps someone who looks remarkably like you, with a faint frown etched between their brows, their eyes wide with a residual alertness. They might try to walk briskly, to observe keenly, their movements sharp and purposeful. But the island, with its soft air, muted light, and pervasive quietude, gently, patiently, begins its work. It's like watching a tightly wound spring slowly unwind, each gentle caress of the zephyrs of Oneros, and each soothing hum of the rivers of Letheus lullaby loosening another coil. You might even find yourself stifling a tender smile, recognizing the subtle battle being waged and the inevitable outcome. The islanders don't actively evangelize or try to convert the newcomers. They simply are. They continue their gentle routines, their quiet existence, providing a silent, living example of profound peace. There are no lectures, no persuasive arguments, only the soft, inviting embrace of the island's atmosphere. This quirky tidbit of passive assimilation where the environment itself is the most powerful persuader is a testament to the island's inherent power. Mainstream historical fact. Throughout history, various utopian or monastic communities have attracted outsiders seeking a different way of life, often requiring a period of adjustment or renunciation of previous habits. The Isle of Somnus, however, achieves this transformation not through explicit rules, but through sheer, pervasive tranquility. You observe the subtle changes in the newcomer. Their hurried steps become slower, their movements more fluid. The frown on their brow softens, replaced by a more relaxed expression. Their eyes, once darting and alert, begin to glaze over with a pleasant drowsiness, reflecting the muted light. They might resist at first, trying to focus on a distant thought or a past obligation. But the island's gentle insistence is relentless, yet never forceful. It's like being caught in a slow-motion current, unable to fight against its inevitable pull. They might sit down, initially intending a brief rest, only to find themselves leaning back against a mossy bank, then slowly stretching out, until they are utterly supine, breathing deeply. The desire to do something, to achieve something, slowly fades, replaced by a profound sense of being. The constant chatter in their mind, the endless to-do lists, the anxieties of the outside world are gently, patiently smoothed away by the island's pervasive calm. Historians still argue whether the concept of a flow state or profound absorption, which leads to a loss of self-consciousness and a sense of timelessness, was understood in ancient philosophies, or is a purely modern psychological concept. Here, on this island, you witness it unfold organically, induced by the environment itself. You notice them picking up one of the island's soft fruits, or perhaps dipping their fingers into a calming stream, their actions becoming more deliberate, more sensuous, as if they are truly experiencing the world for the first time without the lens of urgency. They might even try to speak, their voices initially sharp but quickly softening to a murmur, adopting the islanders' languid pace of communication. Ultimately, the newcomers simply become another gentle ripple in the island's vast Tom pool. They find their own patch of moss, their own comfortable divan, and surrender to the profound, restorative sleep that is the island's gift. Their restlessness melts away, replaced by the deep, steady rhythm of shared repose. It's a beautiful transformation, a quiet testament to the irresistible power of peace. Even on the Isle of Somnus, a place defined by its profound peace, there are subtle challenges to perpetual peace. These are not dramatic upheavals or violent storms, but rather rare, gentle disturbances that briefly interrupt the island's tranquil hum, serving as a quiet counterpoint to its pervasive calm. They are less like disruptions and more like gentle nudges, reminding you that even perfect peace has its delicate edges. You might, for instance, notice a very faint, almost imperceptible tremor in the ground. It's not an earthquake in the way you know it, but a deep, resonant vibration that seems to come from the very core of the island. A slow, low thrumming that barely stirs the air. It passes quickly, leaving behind an even deeper quiet, as if the island has simply shifted in its sleep and settled back into a more profound slumber. You might even find yourself stifling a soft, curious intake of breath, a fleeting moment of alertness before the calm reasserts itself. Then there are the sounds. Occasionally, a single plaintive cry of a sleepy bird might echo through the mist, a sound of gentle longing that seems to hang in the air before being absorbed by the pervasive silence, or perhaps a soft rustle of leaves, slightly more pronounced than the usual languid sigh, indicating a tiny, drowsy creature has momentarily stirred from its nap. These are not harsh noises, but rather poignant whispers, a momentary breach in the otherwise unbroken harmony. This quirky tidbit of gentle sonic disturbance highlights the island's commitment to minimal interruption. Even its challenges are lullabies. Mainstream historical fact. Many ancient philosophies and spiritual traditions acknowledged that true peace often involved confronting and integrating elements of disturbance or duality, rather than simply suppressing them. On the Isle of Somnus, these brief interruptions seem to serve a similar, almost paradoxical purpose, deepening the appreciation for the return of calm. Even the pervasive mist, which usually blankets the island in a comforting haze, might occasionally thin in a particular area, allowing a slightly brighter, yet still diffused light to filter through. This isn't a harsh glare, but a subtle lightning that momentarily illuminates a forgotten corner or reveals a previously unseen detail. It's a fleeting moment of greater clarity before the comforting haze gently reclaims its dominion. Historians still argue whether ancient notions of perfect harmony in nature were purely aspirational or rooted in a nuanced understanding of cyclical changes and minor fluctuations. Here, you witness that subtle, self-correcting balance in action. You might also observe a rare instance of an islander stirring with a slightly less gentle motion, perhaps a restless turn in their sleep, or a brief, uncharacteristic frown passing across their features before they settle back into serene repose. These are not moments of genuine distress, but fleeting expressions of the human subconscious. A gentle reminder that even on an island of perfect slumber, the mind continues its subtle work. It's like a quiet dream that momentarily brushes against the edges of wakefulness before dissolving back into the depths of unconsciousness. These challenges are never prolonged, never truly threatening. They are like tiny, insignificant pebbles dropped into a vast, still pond, creating momentary ripples that quickly fade, leaving the surface even more placid than before. They underscore the island's profound resilience, its inherent ability to absorb any disturbance and return to its core state of uninterrupted calm. You feel your own subtle anxieties, perhaps stirred by these minor shifts, gently dissolving once more, reassured by the island's unwavering commitment to peace. The gentle disruptions are simply part of the island's deeper rhythm, the inhale before an even longer, more profound exhale. They highlight the value of the pervasive calm, making its return feel even more precious and enveloping. They are less about what is wrong and more about what is right, a subtle affirmation of the island's benevolent power. Having observed the gentle ripples of disturbance that briefly punctuate the island's serenity, you are now drawn towards its mystical core, the whispered location of the myth of Hypnos' throne. This isn't a place marked on any map, nor is it a grand, obvious monument. Instead, it is a concept, a profound belief that deep within the Isle of Somnus lies the hidden seat of Hypnos, the Greek god of sleep, the very source from which all this pervasive calm and slumber emanates. Your quest to find it is less about physical navigation and more about a deeper surrender to the island's influence. You drift through areas where the mist is even thicker, swirling with iridescent motes that seem to pulse with a faint internal light, like condensed dreams. The air becomes incredibly soft and still, almost viscous, making each breath a profound act of absorption. You feel as though you're swimming through liquid peace. You might even find yourself stifling a soft, awestruck exhale, utterly captivated by the ethereal beauty. Mainstream historical fact. In ancient Greek mythology, Hypnos was often depicted as living in a dark cave, usually near the underworld, where the river Lethe flowed. He was accompanied by his sons, the Oneiroes. While no physical throne is typically described in detail, the concept of a divine source of sleep is central to his myth. On this island, that source feels incredibly palpable. As you allow yourself to be drawn deeper, the landscape subtly transforms. The already soft mosses become even more yielding, like velvet cushions laid out for your journey. The drooping trees seem to bow even lower, their branches creating natural, intimate alcoves, each one inviting a moment of rest. You notice that the gentle hum of the island deepens, becoming a resonant, comforting thrum that vibrates through your very bones, easing any lingering tension. This quirky tidbit of sensory escalation where the island literally vibrates with rest is a hallmark of your approach to its core. The throne itself, when you finally perceive it, is not a grand, sculpted seat. Instead, it is a natural formation, a vast, smoothly carved hollow in the earth, lined with the softest, purest white moss that seems to glow with an inner luminescence. It is perfectly shaped to cradle a form, yet vast enough to encompass the very spirit of slumber. A low, continuous mist perpetually rises from its depths, carrying the most potent, sweet, and profoundly soothing fragrance you've yet encountered on the island ascent that promises not just sleep, but utter oblivion. Historians still argue whether the concept of a deity's physical abode in ancient myths was meant to be taken literally or served as a metaphor for a powerful, spiritual presence. Here, you feel an undeniable presence, a benevolent power that permeates every atom of the island, radiating outward from this central point of pure rest. It's a place of ultimate surrender, where the boundaries between wakefulness and dream, between being and non-being, completely dissolve. As you approach, you feel an irresistible pull, a profound desire to simply lie down within that luminous, mossy hollow. It's not a coercive force, but an overwhelming invitation, a promise of the deepest, most restorative sleep imaginable. The very air around it seems to ripple with the echoes of countless dreams, the accumulated tranquility of millennia. This is the heart of the Isle of Somnus, the nexus of its peaceful power. It's the point where all the island's elements converge. The soporific poppies, the calming rivers, the gentle zephyrs, the soothing architecture, and the dreamlike rhythms of its inhabitants, all flow from this single mythical source, this hidden throne of hypnos, continually replenishing the island's boundless reservoir of peace. You feel a profound sense of culmination, of having reached the very wellspring of profound repose, a place where all striving ceases, and only pure, unadulterated rest remains. Having reached the mythical source of the island's tranquility, the very seat of hypnos, you now find yourself contemplating the bittersweet sensation of leaving the Isle of Dreams. The decision to depart isn't a conscious, active one, but rather a gradual, almost imperceptible, stirring from the profound slumber that has enveloped you. It's like slowly resurfacing from the deepest, most restorative sleep you've ever known, a gentle peeling back of layers of peace. As your awareness begins to expand, the pervasive mist seems to thin ever so slightly around you, allowing a fraction more light to filter through. It's still soft, still diffused, but there's a subtle increase in luminosity that hints at a world beyond constant twilight. Your senses, though still wonderfully dulled, start to pick up on fainter sounds from the distant outside. Sounds that were previously absorbed by the island's profound silence. You might even find yourself stifling a soft, wistful sigh, a quiet acknowledgement of the gentle separation. The heavy, soporific air seems to lighten, becoming a little less viscous, a little more breathable, making your lungs expand with a slightly increased capacity. The constant, comforting hum that vibrated through your bones begins to recede into the background, becoming a faint, lingering echo. This subtle shift in the atmosphere is the island's gentle nudge, its unspoken farewell. This quirky tidbit of environmental recalibration, where the island itself assists in the gentle transition out of its embraces, a testament to its pervasive benevolence. Mainstream historical fact in many mythological narratives of journeys to other realms, particularly the underworld or lands of the gods. The return journey often involves a period of reorientation or a symbolic waking up to the mortal world. The Isle of Somnus provides a similar, yet far more gentle, process of reintegration. You feel the delightful heaviness in your limbs gradually lessen. Your muscles, utterly relaxed for what felt like eons, now possess a subtle, almost imperceptible readiness, a gentle hum of returning vitality. It's not a jarring jolt awake, but a slow, graceful reawakening, like a flower unfurling its petals at dawn, utterly unhurried. You find your eyes, previously half closed in contentment, slowly opening a fraction wider, taking in a slightly clearer, less dreamlike view of your surroundings. The memories of your time on the island, the soft mosses, the drowsy creatures, the whispered conversations, the communal naps, are not fading away. Instead, they are settling into a profound, cherished collection within your mind, like perfectly polished stones in a quiet stream. They remain not as sharp, urgent recollections, but as soft, comforting impressions, ready to be revisited in moments of need. Historians still argue whether ancient narratives of profound, transformative experiences were meant to be literally interpreted or served as psychological allegories for inner journeys and personal growth. Here, it feels like a deeply personal, restorative journey, whose effects linger long after the physical departure. You find your body slowly rising from its state of profound repose, not with effort, but with a natural, flowing movement. Each action feels infused with the island's lingering peace, a gentle, unhurried grace. There's no regret, no sense of having to leave, but rather a quiet acceptance of the natural cycle of rest and gentle reawakening. The island doesn't hold you captive. It releases you, refreshed and renewed, back into the world. As you turn towards the shimmering mist of the coastline, the path you took inland seems to subtly reshape itself, becoming less distinct, more dreamlike, as if it is already melting back into the island's slumber. You know, instinctively, that this place will always be here, a sanctuary of peace, ready to welcome you back, should the waking world become too loud, too demanding. It's a bittersweet farewell, yes, but tempered by the profound sense of peace you carry within you. As you gently move away from the shoreline of the Isle of Dreams, the mist thickens once more, not in an oppressive way, but like a soft, comforting curtain drawing closed behind you. What lingers, and what truly defines your departure, are the lingering echoes of sleep. These aren't just memories. They are subtle, profound shifts in your very being, carrying the island's influence gently back into the waking world. You notice it, first, in your breathing. It's deeper, slower, a continuous rhythm that seems to flow effortlessly, calming your entire system. The hurried, shallow breaths of the outside world feel alien, replaced by a profound, internal sense of peace that resonates with the island's gentle hum. This sustained, calm breathing is a gift, a tangible reminder of the tranquility you experienced. You might even find yourself stifling a soft, contented sigh, a ripple of ongoing peace. Then there's the quiet in your mind, the constant chatter, the urgent thoughts, the relentless mental to-do lists that once plagued you are now remarkably subdued. Your mind feels spacious, open, and clear, like a vast, calm lake reflecting a clear sky. While thoughts still arise, they do so gently, without urgency, and they pass just as easily, leaving behind a profound sense of mental repose. This quirky tidbit of cognitive recalibration where your mind learns to unthink is one of the island's most enduring lessons. Mainstream historical fact. Many meditative practices across various cultures aim to quiet the mind and achieve a state of inner stillness, often leading to reduced stress and enhanced well-being. The Isle of Somnus provides a natural, immersive shortcut to this desired state, embedding it into your very being, your movements, to carry the echo of the island's languid grace. There's a newfound fluidity in your steps, a gentle, unhurried quality to your gestures. The frantic rush that once defined your actions feels distant, replaced by a deliberate calm, a sense of moving with, rather than against, the natural flow of life. Even tasks that once felt burdensome now seem imbued with a meditative quality, performed with a quiet grace. The subtle scent of the island, that sweet, narcotic perfume of the poppies, seems to linger faintly in the air around you, an elusive, comforting aroma that occasionally drifts into your awareness, bringing with it a wave of profound calm. It's a sensory anchor, a quiet reminder that peace is always accessible. Historians still argue whether the concept of olfactory memory and its profound connection to emotion was fully understood in ancient times, though the use of incenses and perfumes for ritual and therapeutic purposes was widespread. Here, it feels like a subtle, persistent blessing. You find that loud noises or sudden demands from the outside world no longer jolt you with the same intensity. Instead, They register as distant echoes, absorbed and softened by the profound inner peace you now carry. It's as if you've developed an internal cushion, a buffer against the sharp edges of the waking world. You are less reactive, more observant, embodying the island's gentle, non-judgmental stance. The promise of deep, restorative sleep now feels different. It's not a nightly battle or a fleeting escape, but a return to a familiar, cherished state of being. To know deep in your bones that the profound peace of the Isle of Somnus is now a part of you, an inner sanctuary you can access whenever you need to quiet the world and simply be. The island hasn't just offered you rest, it has taught you the art of profound peace, and that lesson, that gentle echo of slumber, will stay with you